Hi and welcome to Real Magic Review. My name is Steve Faulkner and this is my interview with Marc Spelmann. Now, for those of you that don't know, Marc's had a really interesting journey through Britain's Got Talent, America's Got Talent, and of course his family life, which he shares really openly on here, and his creative process and his thoughts on magic. I think this stuff is gold as usual. I think the insights into all those things are way more valuable for some of us than learning more tricks and getting more tricks. So I hope you get as much from this as I did. So huge thanks to Marc again. Do watch both parts. I'm going to split this into two parts because it is quite a long one, and that's a good thing because that's when you get the good stuff. So please like, please subscribe, please check out Card Magic Course. That's my online card magic course with over 200 videos of me teaching everything I know about card magic, and it's growing every week pretty much, and we have live sessions and all sorts. So that's cardmagiccourse.com. But enjoy the interview and I'll be back at the end. So,
So
Mr. Spellman, I ain't seen you for ages.
you haven't seen me for ages. No, it's I think the last time I saw you was literally it was almost like two lovers just passing each other at Blackpool Magic Convention. And I just went, Steve, I love your YouTube videos. And you, thanks, mate. And I think you was with one of your children.
Yeah, Gracie, that's
Yeah,
God, yeah.
he was just going in. So it wasn't this year, just gone. It was last year. So that was 2019.
Yeah.
So that was right in the middle of the whole X thing. I'd already done the performance as X at the Lowry in Manchester. So that was at the beginning of February, and then turned up at the Blackpool Magic Convention, just pretending I'd not been up to anything really.
Oh, of course, yeah, well, we'll get into it in a minute actually, but because that was right, I've just realised your first Britain's Got Talent thing was
Yeah,
only 2 years ago, right?
that was
Right.
2000. Yeah, 2018
Yeah,
was all about Isabella and Tessa. Yeah.
yeah. That's not long, is it? That your life in the last 2 years must have been, and then this, and then we've, and then we've got this kind of.
Yeah, yeah, it's very strange times that we live in, but it's you kind of yeah, yeah, it's been weird. It was actually it's been more fast paced since X than Spellman, and I've done a couple of interviews about both times on BGT, and I'm a bit of an old pro now when it comes to BGT, having done it twice now. So, but first time round, it's really the first time was very emotive, obviously, because it was a sort of a big emotional story about Tessa and Isabella.
Yeah.
They obviously had that, so it was much more about them really than the magic that I was doing. The magic was a metaphor for sort of the story and obviously real magic. Um, but originally, I was actually going to enter. Jamie Raven came second in 2015.
Yeah.
And I've known Jamie for years. Me and Jamie have same agents, end up on the same gigs, that kind of thing. And I remember 2014, I got this booking, and this is like the non-showbiz side of showbiz. Got this gig in Portugal, and I remember looking at my diary, and it was dead. It was really empty. I can't remember what month this was, but it was a really empty month. And you've been there. We've all been there, where you get the call from the agent. There's not a lot of budget, It's and okay, but it is an international corporate event, right? Okay, no budget, right? Okay. Would you do this corporate gig in Portugal? I was like, looked at the calendar, and you kind of pretend you're busy, and then you go, oh, on this occasion, because I've been with you for so long, I'll do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did the gig and turn up at the airport and get a text message from Jamie going, Spellman, we're on the same gig. I remember this is 2014, so Jamie's not done BGT yet. This is the year before he's done it. And we were sitting in heat. I don't know if it was Gatwick or Heathrow. Details don't matter. But basically, we're sitting there, and we're chatting and all that, and yeah, be like, we'll get some whiskies and have a laugh and all. It's great when you're doing a gig sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
and I
Oh,
really
yeah.
miss that. Like ever since BGT, I don't really do those gigs anymore. And there's something so lovely about just, it's almost like the gigs a subside to having drinks afterwards with your mates
Yeah.
and jamming, you know, until 2 o'clock in the morning. But anyway, so we're over in Portugal, and I was sitting there, and I was thinking, I wonder how much Jamie's on for this gig. And I thought, I know Jamie pretty well. And I went, Jamie, you do not have to ask this, but I'm over here for quite cheap. And he went, yeah, so am I. And I went, and then I said my price. Actually, I don't even mind telling you the price.
Yeah, go on.
It was $450, right? 400. Now, to anyone that's not a magician, they're going, what, they flew you out to Portugal for 450 quid, and you're complaining about this, and I do a
I know.
week of work, and I get like 400 quid, and I'm there all those hours. But in the magic world, because it's a niche thing, 450 quid for a London job is kind of the sort of standard rate, I guess.
Yeah.
So being over in Portugal for like a day and a half, away from the family, flying and all that malarkey, it's 450. It's actually not that much. And Jamie was on exactly the same salary. So we sort of drowned our sorrows and probably spent the 450 on whiskey after the gig in the hotel bar. And then a year later, Jamie's doing BGT, and I remember sitting there, and I, you know, obviously rooting for him all the way through, and he should have won, absolutely should have won that year. And then after that, he's doing all these gigs, and you just sort of think, this is the guy I was in Portugal with. And I thought, I'm missing a trick. I'm not getting any younger. I'm getting older. And I just said to Tessa's always been the person, Mark, just go for it. You know, I was asked to do Penn and Teller, the original one that was over here. And I said, well, here's my fee. And then I'll consider it. And obviously they were like, no, you get the privilege of being on our program and showcasing your skills. And I turned them down. I went, well, no, I'm not going to do that because I know the vibe. I know what it's going to be like. It's Penn and Teller going to absolutely rip me to shreds and try and bust my trick. I think it's very different doing Penn and Teller now. The Las Vegas version is way, way different. And I have been asked right before lockdown if I would go on Penn and Teller and do Fool Us in Vegas. And I had no problem at all because it's a much positive, a more positive experience. Equally, I think lots of magicians have been asked to do BGT before. And I was asked probably about twice that I got the call, would you consider going on BGT? But this is at a time where it was just, you don't do it. Just no way are you going to go and do BGT because of the sort of the slant that was, you know, the magic world. And I think it was James Moore and David Penn that were the sort of first magicians to go on there and get a positive or a more positive reaction. So, so Tessa was always just go for it, what you got to lose. And I mean, I'm an older magician now. And I thought to myself, you know what, Jamie now, he's flying over to do all these international gigs. Great magician, lovely guy. And I'll go for it. And I remember watching the final, he came second on the show, which, as I say, he should have won that show. And then I thought to myself, you know, 2016, I'll go for it. I'll go for it. I'm just going to you know, put your ego to one side, your fear of rejection, get rid of it, stop being silly, and just go for it. You've got nothing to lose, you know. And then obviously 2015 continued because BGT sort of ends around June, and then Tessa was diagnosed in August time, and the world changes completely.
Yep.
And the last thing I'm thinking about is doing BGT. So I took 2 years out. I literally stopped performing. I fulfilled the contracts that I had and the gigs that I had remaining. Got in contact with all my agents and said, look, I'm just not going to be able to do this because I said to Tessa from day one, you know, you're going to have the sort of the physicality of going through her cancer and dealing with it all, and the pregnancy of Isabella. But I'm going to, every step of the way that you have to have any treatment or do any chemotherapy or whatever it is, any doctor's meetings or whatever, I'm going to be there. So I said, as much as I can be with you and be part of this, you know, battle, I'll do. So that was it. That was where my priorities lied, and didn't perform for 2 years. And then Tessa beat her cancer, which was amazing. And then Isabella was born, which is, as you know, as a father yourself, It is absolutely life changing. Like the world changes in the touch of. I remember when Isabella was born. Obviously, Tessa was. God, I've got two cats having a
Yeah.
hear that? That's on the roof of.
Kicking that out of each other. Yeah, go for it.
So sorry, I had to do. I'm a bit of a cat guy, so we haven't got a cat.
No, I am too. Yeah.
I just try and sort of get in there and like leave it,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. All right. Easy.
You've had too much milk. Clear off. Sorry about that. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, Tessa came running out the house because this is right down the back of the house, my little sort of studio officey thing. Anyway, so yeah, so that was it. And then I remember, before Isabella was born, me and Tessa's very, very good at what she does for a living. She's a sort of beauty therapist. We own, at the time we owned 2 beauty clinics, and Tessa's an expert with skin, like proper educated person with skin, and it's all of that amazing stuff. So, and I was a gigging magician, like trying to written endless TV shows, gone to endless TV meetings, trying to get the gig, trying to get the big break and that kind of thing. So before that, I was really sort of like career driven. And the irony is I stopped being career driven the moment that Isabella was born. And once sort of Isabella was at an age and Tessa was, because people think that once you sort of get clear of cancer, once Isabella was born and Tessa was technically clear of cancer, people sort of think that that's where it ends, but it doesn't. There's lots of preventative stuff that happens after, radiotherapies and medications and all this kind of stuff. And, it's really heavy. So it got to a stage where Tessa said to me, look, Mark, I'm fine. Isabella's good. We're all good. It's time for you to sort of jump back into the corporate arena and do what you love. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. And my first thing was, I said to Tessa, I'm going to do Britain's Got Talent, but this time it's going to be under completely different set of circumstances. Originally, I was going to go on as the mind reader guy because they hadn't really had much mind reading on BGT. They had Jamie, who was very a magician, and I thought I'll go on as this guy. I was going to black waistcoat, tattoos out, and sort of like looking a bit sort of sharp but trendy and edgy and all that kind of stuff. And I'll be this mystical mind reader that would hopefully blow them away.
Yeah.
And then it was polar opposite when I went on. I thought, you know what? Forget the theatrical magic. Forget all of this. And I don't know if you get this, but every once in a while you get a cross section of people when you're a performer. And one of those things is you get the people that go, well, it's all just tricks and nonsense, isn't it? And whatever. And then you get the other people that are sort of in the middle, God, I just really like to, I don't want to know. And they got that kind of vibe. You can see they're almost trying to believe it. And then every once in a while you get someone, especially when you're doing the more mind reading kind of thing. I do a lot of metal bending and mind reading. And I had one situation years ago where this woman was watching me bend a spoon. And she was like, really, I could just see that she wasn't being entertained. She was analysing. Everyone else is going, what? Hang on a minute, you're not even touching it. It's just bending and all the reactions you expect, right? And she just went, yeah. She goes, okay, yeah, okay, yeah. That's very, very. That's really interesting. So I'm thinking, don't say if she's seen me do a sneaky, right? Some of the techniques that we sneakily use, and I thought, don't ruin it for all these lot. They're loving it, and then they all went away, and she said, do you study Tai Chi? And I went, no. And then I thought, oh, right, okay, this is the way that you're going. This is like, sort of, what's the massage as well without touching? God, my brain.
There's Reiki and shiatsu,
yeah. So she said, you would be excellent at that. I mean, really, the energy and everything else. And I think you get these people, God, there's so much to talk to you about, Steve. You get people, right, that like to go, they're very anti, no, that's just psychological, it's placebo and this, that and the other. And I'm a firm believer that I'm a non-religious person. I class myself as being more sort of spiritual and maybe hippie love than religious. But equally, I think if you have a religion in your life, or you I don't know, speak to a clairvoyant, or, you know, hold crystal balls and things, and it gives you a focal point that makes you feel better, be it a form of meditation or a virtual hug or a spiritual hug,
Yeah.
whatever it is. I think if it makes you, if that's your thing, then I think just leave them alone, just let them have it. You know, it's because I think if you were to go around and use science and fact to change people's perceptions, if it worked, then no one would really be religious or spiritual because of all of the other facts that people, scientists, and, you know, have. But I just think that doesn't, you know, I think some of these things are so ingrained that you just need
Mm.
to let people have it. So with this lady, I said, no, I said, I'm not using Reiki. I'm not using any sort of chi or energy. All I'm doing is it represents maybe what you're thinking, but but I'm not using any of those techniques. But then I don't dispel hers. I'm not going to ruin what she finds therapeutic or healing or whatever. So yeah, so I don't know how I got into that. So anyway, so that was the whole mind reading thing that I was going
Yeah.
to be doing on BGT first time round. But I do, one of the questions, that was it. I don't know if you've experienced this, but you do get some people that go, yeah, but do you believe in that there is a magic? And certainly when you do mind reading, people sometimes, I've had people, I've done it for a long time, so I've had different, I had this one woman at a wedding, sorry, not at a wedding, at a corporate gig, and she came up and she said to me, she watched me do some mind reading, and it was like the first place you had to crush all the cliche stuff that we do, right?
Mm.
But effective, you know. And she went, sorry, that was amazing what you were doing. Could I talk to you a minute? And then we went over to a corner, and just so that you know, none of these stories, I don't need to embellish these stories or fabricate them, you know, because you know, being in the industry, some of the weirdest things happen, right?
Yeah.
So, and she took me over to one corner, and it's not what she said; it's how I chose to deal with it that I think is the relevant point here. But she said to me, "I am getting married in 3 months, and I don't know why, but I'm having second thoughts. I'm not sure. I mean, what do you see for my future? Do you think I'd be making the right decision?" And I thought to myself, right, okay. And you've got to think in a nanosecond of how you're going to answer this question, because you're totally, you know, you're in the vibe of performing and gigging. Whoa, you're great, you're better than whoever, and all that kind of stuff. And then I just remember, right, I've got to think in a nanosecond about how I'm going to deal with this. And then I said to her, look, you know, what I do is theatrical, and, you know, some of the things you're seeing there, I'm not using any other skill that none of us have. And in actual fact, the best people to ask are the people that know you best. And that's going to be your friends and your family members that you can really, really trust. So they are the people that you should really be asking that question to. But most importantly of all, the person you should be asking that question to the most is yourself. And that is to take the time just to think about why you're getting married, who this person is, what they represent to you, what you love about them, and what you hope and dream for your future to be with this person. And I said, and that's would be my advice to you. I would say that having pre-wedding nerves or pre-wedding jitters, it has its own terminology. It exists. Of course, people are, it's the big commitment. Oh, you know, I never had that because I was married at an older age. I was married in 2013. God, get that right. So I'm an
We can
older,
edit
you
it.
know, you know. But yeah, so you get all those weird scenarios, but you do hear that this, you know, do you believe that there is, yeah, magic's not real though, is it? And I think that's a really interesting question of magic, or a statement, you know, magic's not real, is it? Or do you believe in magic? And I think magic is, I do believe in magic. I think magic is absolutely real. If you're saying, so I believe that finding your card in someone's shoe is magic, then absolutely not at all. Because for me, magic, real magic, is a feeling. For me, magic is something that it's a feeling, and it's similar for a lot of people, but we all have our own. What gives us that feeling will differ from person to person, but there is a general sort of spectrum that gives that feeling. So most of us, the birth of our children, looking at our children grow, and just having those moments. I don't know if you get this, but every once in a while, and Tessa said to me, "Why are you looking at me like this?" A couple of days ago, Tessa said to me, "Why are you looking at me like that?" And I was just sitting on the sofa and I was looking at her, and I'm thinking, "You're my wife." Like, out of all of the, but not in a negative, but in like, out of all of the ways that we are, as all of the pathways that life can lead us, this is it. This is me. This is you. And then I look at Isabella and I go, and Tessa's just, I think she goes, "Mark, are you high? I don't do drugs, right?" Yeah. "Mark, what have you done? Have you been cleaning anything with bleach lately?" And but I kind of get that. So I think as I've got older, I get it even more. So I do believe that magic exists, but I believe magic is what you define it to be. Whether it's real or not is what you choose to define it as. So for me, magic is a feeling. And as magicians or mind readers or mentalists or whatever you want to call what you do, I think it is the feeling. Paul Harris, The Art of Astonishment, which is right there, and they're on your shelves as well. I saw them.
Yeah.
Art of Astonishment, he talks about the moment of astonishment. And I think everything that precedes and precursors that moment of astonishment is just process. We are the bringer of process. We do this process, and then in that moment, hopefully that person goes, "What?" And if that's like 5 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever it is, that moment of just detaching from every bit of distraction that life has for that moment, that's a moment of feeling magic. Not seeing real magic, but feeling magic. And I think you can get that with a piece of music. I think we spoke online. We were talking about running. You've done these amazing videos where you kind of gave us a bit of your soul, really, where you just spoke about life, and you'd be cycling up a mountain and stuff. And no, but it was brilliant. And that were the videos. That's what I was referencing when I saw you in Blackpool. I really liked those videos because they were so honest, and I think there was a real honesty in your videos. And there's times when you could see that when you were doing your videos, that you are talking from actual experiences that are happening in your life at that moment. And I think there's something really honest and open about that.
I think that there's just, I don't want to butt in, remember where you were, but because when I watched, it's that honesty and that authenticity, because when I knew I was talking to you today, I watched the first audition again, and it was your journey through Britain's Got Talent. I kind of missed bits of it. I was watching bits of it because there's loads of stuff going on. Obviously, I watched the first one. It was incredible to see. I didn't even know you were doing it. You know what I mean? And then the X thing, I didn't know anything about. I was kind of getting back into things a little bit. And I've watched watched all of it since then. But when I watched it with Woody, my son. Now Woody is 10 years old, and I made the mistake. Well, it wasn't a mistake; it was a very conscious thing. But sometimes I'll ask him to help me. I'll say, "I'm going to do a trick. Just let me know what this looks like." And I won't expose that much. But he's kind of bored of magic. He's a magician's son. So the odd thing I do, he'll go, "Wow!" But I've decided recently to stop doing it. But he's kind of jaded with it. But we sat and watched your thing, and he was playing his Switch. I said, "Just watch this," and he was like, and he watched it, and at the end, he was like, "Dad, how on earth did he do that?" And he was into it. He was into what he was doing, but he wasn't into it because of the magic. I mean, he did it enhance the magic, but he was into it because of the story. And he's kind of too young to get to kind of be able to empathize with that story as a parent and all that stuff, of course, as we all do. But he was feeling something. He was drawn to it, and I think he was drawn to the authenticity of it. And there was an emotional reaction. He didn't cry or anything. I was welling up, even though I knew what was coming. And it was that very easily could have completely backfired, I think. It could have looked manipulative. It could have looked like you're right. I'm going to get Britain's Got Talent. I'll get them. And of course, we try and put emotion into our performances for that reason, because we want to embed. So there's a kind of line, isn't there? But I think that that authenticity you're talking about is what creates the connection, and that humanity creates a connection. And it's why I think people make the mistake when they talk about putting a story and putting an emotional story into magic. The story is, you've got to really either believe that the story is amazing yourself to be able to sell it, or have experienced it yourself. And I think that what came through with you was that you know, you saw Tessa welling up in the audience. You were kind of there as well. The way that it just worked as a piece of theatre, but also there was a window into your humanity, and it's in Maximum Entertainment as well. You sort of let us see you through that. And when you do that, you can be flawed. You know, you can be a flawed human being, and it takes the heat off of what you're doing, I think. And we learned this with age, of course. And it was just really interesting. It was the first time I've seen Woody stop playing his Switch, you know, for a couple of days, 'cause it's been all rainy, and kind of be drawn into something and kind of staring. Oh yeah, I was doing that, wasn't I? Back there. And I just wanted to say, just to butt in with that, really. I think that you kind of nailed that throughout that process.
Well, see, and that was the thing, because that whole routine, it was really interesting, because originally I would never have done that kind of a routine. The routine, when I tell you how organically that all came about, you know, like each and every phase of that routine. And this is what you can't always convey on something like Britain's Got Talent, because it is like 4.5 minutes, 5 minutes max of performance time. You know, you got to get it done. You got to get, you know, and I remember the whole process. What happened was, with that whole thing was, I said to Tessa about going back, and I said, look, you know, I'm going to do Britain's Got Talent, but I really wanted to convey this notion of real magic. So it was never. I remember saying to Tessa, all this might be is, you know, me maybe performing at the Palladium and walking out on that stage. If that had been it, I said, Tessa said to me, supposing you don't get it, supposing it goes, if they don't like it, or supposing, I'm trying my best with Isabella to be a glass half full, but I have always been that glass half empty, because if I told you, I mean, we haven't got time to talk about it, but if I told you the amount of things that I have written, and I've been so close. I said to Tessa on my grave, it'd be the nearly man, Marc Spelmann, nearly man. Even with BGT, even with X, you know, nearly, like, comes back, massive reveal, and you're second. You know, it's like, you know, but I knew, and genuinely, when I was on, sorry, jumping the gun here a bit, when I was on stage as X, when I was standing there in that moment, and you're waiting for that result to come in, I knew the result. Not that anyone told me. I just knew the result. It was going to be Colin Thackeray that was going to win that day, and he was a lovely man. And genuinely, I'm not sort of like gracious in defeat. You know, some of we in this lockdown sort of situation. Obviously, there have been people that have had enormous heartache and absolute devastation in their lives. But for the vast majority of us, it has been a stay at home, you know, Disney Plus, Netflix, you know, here's hopefully 80% of what you might have been earning, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's it. And don't get me wrong, the freedoms that we enjoy, obviously that is a really weird, worrying situation. You know, it's massive. But when I look back to things like in sort of Colin Thackeray's era, where, you know, you and I would have been, right, that's it, you're off. You're going to be on a plane or a boat or a ship or whatever over to the you know, the coastline of France to defend our country. All the wives are going to be going into the factories to take up the jobs that we were doing, and all the kids are going to be on trains going into the countryside, so that they're not in the big central cities where there's going to be loads of bombing. And that is mega. You know,
writing letters to each other.
Yeah, and it's like not knowing, like, you know, there's no, it's, you know, it is a different level. So I have, you know, just, you know, someone like Colin Thackeray is just, you know, it's testament to, you know, what this country is and can be, and fair shout, you know. Listen, I've done very well from coming second. I've been all right. But getting back to that original audition, I said to Tessa, I said, look, I want to do Britain's Got Talent, but I really want to convey real magic, because I had the weirdest moment. It was like my life changed once Isabella came into the world. She was born by a C-section, because it was a real catch-22 situation. Basically what was happening was when you have cancer, what they want to do is they want to throw everything at you, like, and the kitchen sink, everything to nullify those cancerous cells from spreading, developing, and all that kind of stuff. They want to absolutely nullify it, and that's why people really struggle with the chemotherapy with cancer, because it takes away not only the bad stuff, but it can take loads of good stuff away as well, and that's why people really struggle. It's an invasive form of medication. It's not a paracetamol or something like that. It's really heavy duty. And but at the same time, Tessa was pregnant, so they're going, right, we want to, no, we can't, because you're pregnant. And a lot of the medication that you'd have when you're having chemotherapy and all this kind of stuff would be detrimental to a pregnancy. It's just, the two can't coexist. So now you've got the situation where you've got, it's complete yin and yang. You've got Tessa fighting cancer, and obviously my wife, and I need her to survive. But within her is the child that we've been trying to have for 10 years, 5 years of IVF. And we've got to protect her too. We didn't know it was a her at the time. So you've got this complete yin and yang. It's like, what do you do? It's like this craziness. And but we got through it. And when Isabella was born, I remember she came out C-section, and Tessa went, whatever happens, go with the baby. Just go. And Tessa's like that. I'm the more sort of emotive kind of like, and Tessa's like, no, buckle up.
Yeah, I need one of them.
I'm going to stitch myself up. You know what I mean, right? Tessa's honestly a warrior, right?
Yeah.
So she said, go with the baby. So I went with the baby, and I remember this tiny little baby, because Isabella was born 2 months premature, because they had to get Isabella out early so they could carry on with the more heavy-duty cancer treatment for Tessa. So it was like a timing thing of like, right, baby out, safe as can be, crack on with Tessa and kind of sort Tessa out. So I went with this tiny little baby, and I remember and I'm looking down, and the nurse looked at me and she said, it's right, you can touch her. And then I put my hand down, and I just touched her on the chest. Her hand held my finger.
Oh my God.
Photograph of that moment. And because I shot camera, and it's, and she held my finger, and it was the weirdest thing. And nothing in my life ever will be as magical as that moment. You know, it was just like it's flicking a switch. It was the weirdest thing. It was such an amazing moment where she held my hand, and to me, it was. I can't say anything else. It was the most magical moment of my life ever, and I wanted to convey how, in moments of absolute desperation and darkness, there is light and there is magic. And I think we get so consumed with things that, you know, for most of us, they're not big deals. You know, they're distractions in life. They're things that get in the way of us doing what we need to get on with. And in the big scheme of things, they're unimportant. And that was it. And I just thought, I want to talk about real magic, you know. And I remember the bit that you don't see before I go on that first audition, I'm standing there, and Anna and Dec just walk up to you. It's the weirdest thing. You're just sort of standing there, and this guy said to me, Mark, can you just stand here on this line? And I was like, yeah, what, here? And I looked up, and then Ant and Dec are there, and you're kind of like, yeah, and Dec. It's really, really bizarre. And then now they're going, so Mark, what you got lined up for us? And I went, I'm going to do magic. And they went, we love magic. We love magic. And obviously they're being Ant and Dec and all that kind of stuff. And I went, no, but this is different, because at the end of this, I'm going to show you real magic. At the end of this, you're going to see undeniable real magic. And they were like, well, wow, okay, sounds amazing. But they chose to cut that out because they didn't want to give a precursor to what's coming. They thought, no, just magic trick. And if you look at it, Simon's really not that interested. As I walk up to them, he's actually sitting there fiddling around on his phone. And it's only once, I think, they realise that I'm kind of like David, take a crayon and this, that, and the other. They realise, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. And then obviously when I go up on the stage and then say, you know, none of that is real magic. And you can actually see there's a moment, watch it again when you get a chance, but you'll see the bit where I say, none of that is real magic. And I choke on the word real magic, but it's a lump in my throat because I know what's coming.
Yeah.
And that's where the emotion starts. So just to give your viewers an idea of how that routine came about, it was so organic. If anyone deserves credit, it genuinely is Isabella. because I always thought to myself, you know, I was planning on doing it, I never did, and it was always this thing in the back of my head. 2016, I was going to do it, didn't do it. And as I'm sort of bringing up Isabella and looking after Tessa and stuff, it's still there. And I'm thinking, what would I do? What would I do if I was going to go on Britain's Got Talent? And now I'm changed as a person. I really feel I'm a better person on the other side of going through everything we went through. And I remember just watching Isabella, and one of the first toys that she ever had in her incubator, we couldn't put anything in there for like first month and a half because they are so prone to infections and the hygiene has to be through the roof because she was so small. And they said, you can put something in there now. She can have a little toy or something if you'd like to put something in her incubator. And it was the puppet penguin. So it was that little puppet penguin. And it's still there. If I could pick up my iMac and go upstairs now, you'd see it's still there. It's in her bedroom. It's her favourite little thing, puppet penguin. And then the crayons, we had these little kid crayons. They're not quite the same that David picked out of the box, but there's these big crayon with a big bulb on the end that little kids can hold on to. It's an easier way of them starting. And she'd always just grab the red crayon. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching it and I'm thinking, God, she always, puppet penguin, she always plays that red crayon. And I go, Tez, have you noticed that she always just grabs the red crayon? And then and you know, these things start to form. And then we went away to Palma for a week away. And I remember I'd just seen Stephen Bundridge on AGT doing the Rubik's Cube stuff. And I thought, God, I really want to learn the Rubik's Cube, just something to do. And obviously your time is so limited when you've got a child now, because you can't just sit there on your iPad going, oh, I'm going to watch like, you know, Daryl's Encyclopedia, cards,
I know.
something like that. You go, forget those days, it's over. So I just thought, you know what, I could do a Rubik's Cube or something like that, get an hour in every day. And I thought, right, we're away for 8 days, 1 hour every day. I've got to learn a Rubik's Cube and I've got to be able to do it in under 3 minutes in 8 hours. And that was my task for Palma. And took a Rubik's Cube, went away. And what does Isabella do? I'm sitting there, left it on the sofa, and she's grabbed this Rubik's Cube and dropped it. It's a million pieces all over the floor, trying to put this thing together. But then I just had video footage of her mixing up a Rubik's, and I thought, just that's really interesting. And then the word hat was the one that there were so many people going, oh, it's dubbed. It was not dubbed at all.
Really?
The way that came about was, now Isabella's just around about, she's just under 2 years old at that stage, almost 2. And I remember sort of Tessa had a weekend away with the girls, and she deserves every break there is, right? I went, you go, right? So I had Isabella, and I'm very good with children. I've got 2 very young sisters, so I was 16 and they were kids, so the whole nappy changing thing was just like, so Tessa went away, and Isabella's, I'm folding up laundry and stuff. Isabella's lying on the bed, googling and gargling with her dummy, and then she just said the word hat, and it was the weirdest thing. I just hear her just repeating this word, hat. I thought, that's so weird, because she's got no concept of what hat is. This is just a sound she's making. And I remember I picked up my mobile phone and I videoed it, and I just sort of thought, I'll WhatsApp it to Tess. And I went, Tess, I don't know if this qualifies as a first word, but look. And I'm going to say hat. And she's going, hat, shaking a dummy. And WhatsApped it over to Tess. I carried on folding up the clothes, and she's still saying it. And I thought, hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. Right? Genuinely, right? Absolutely 100% right. And I recorded her, and I went, Isabella, and you remember, I hadn't all planned to do it yet. It was always something I'd speak to Russ Stevens, obviously, who Russ is magical guy on Britain's Got Talent and good friend of mine. So I thought I'll speak to him when I'm ready, when if and when that comes about. Got my camera out and I just videoed again. I went, Isabella, if Danny was going to do Britain's Got Talent and I said 1 year from now, what word would Simon be thinking of? And then waited, hat. Then did a couple of other variations, and then I did 2 years, and I even did 3 years. So I've got footage of me just saying to her, what word would Simon think? And sometimes she doesn't say it. She shakes her dummy for like a minute and a half, and goes, hat. He's like, that's too long, babe. I've got 5 minutes if I do. So, and then there was one that was perfect. Tessa came back from from a weekend away, not Ibiza, from a weekend away. And then I said to her, look, if I do Britain's Got Talent, this is the end. This is the end of it. So originally, the whole routine was going to be that I was going to come out, and that was not going to be the first routine. That was going to be the end. So I was going to walk out and I was going to do a mentalism piece that spoke about changes in us as human beings and how we grow through challenge. And I was going to have this jar full of little notes and post-it notes and things that you saw X use in the final
Yeah.
with Ant and Dec. But that was going to be as Marc Spelmann in the very first time you ever saw me on BGT. And I was going to hint at something, a story, but never go into it in detail. The second part was going to be pretty much what you saw me do in the semi-finals with the art and distraction and people and inspirational people. And then the final part was going to be Isabella was going to be introduced, and the story, what have all my performances been about? It's been about real magic. Let me demonstrate something. And then that was going to be the last part. But obviously with BGT, what it is, you know, it's I think people get confused. It's a Saturday night TV program first, a competition very much second.
Yeah.
So it's, and the production, I created this video, just Isabella playing with a Rubik's Cube, all that you saw. No method at all, just literally just these bits, and just sent it to Russ. I said, this is the end of my act. And Russ knows me really well. So Russ just was like, well, okay, and you know how you're going to get there. I went, absolutely. Don't worry about any of that. I know how I'm going to get the crayon, get the penguin, methods that we know, you watch it, you're going to go, oh yeah, got it, you know, kind of thing. And I said, so there's multiple different ways that I can get to that part. And Russ was like, great. So he went to the production and said, look, I've got this guy, Marc Spelmann. He was considering doing it a couple of years ago. Really good. He knows what he's doing, but it's a bit of a different angle. He wants to convey this message. Shared it with the production team. And then they were like, they just saw the end video and then the wording come up, because all that's edited by me. That was literally just put together by me. And then they just went, and he's all right doing this? Is he okay to do this? And Russ was like, yeah, but that's the last part. And they were like, no, this is unbelievable. This is amazing. He needs to do this first. And Russ got back to me and said, look, they want you to do that first. And I was adamant. I was, no, that's the end of the story. That's the end. It's not about that. And then Russ was like, no, they want you to do it first because they're fearful that if you don't make it, if you don't get through the audition process or the semi-finals, that amazing piece never gets seen. And then I said to Tessa, this is why I turned to my voice of reason. I said, what do you think I do? And Tessa said, look, ultimately, what's the most important thing to you? And I said, Tessa, it's not about even winning. It's not about winning. I like to classify myself as an artist. Art. It's for the art, you know. But I really do. And if there's one thing that I can do in my life that conveys a message of hope and of real magic and just something that is significant, then I don't want to ruin it, you know. And I just said to Tess, if that's what I'll do, then that's what I'll do. And I did it. I did it first, and that's what you saw. Two of the really interesting things about that, though, is that, yes, it's a really, you know, emotive thing. And I've got nothing. There's a young girl that's on BGT at the moment called Serene. And I don't know if you've watched it this season.
No, I haven't. Yeah.
Serene is a young girl. She's 14 years old. And she comes on and she's blind. And she went blind when she was 11. And she walks out and you can see that she's blind because she's led on. I think Ant brings her out. And she does the interview about, you know, hi, what are you going to be doing? She's going to singing and this, that, and the other. And David Williams says, anything else? She goes, well, clearly you can see I'm blind. I went blind when I was 11, but music is my vision. That's how I see the world, through music and sound. And for me, I think to myself, her being blind is absolutely relevant to how she interprets music and sound and, you know, and her life, you know, as a human being. I think it's really, really important. I think sometimes, you know, so the notion of the sob story is what I'm getting at here.
Yeah.
My routine would not be relevant without the story. If you imagine, take away the end video and imagine me just going, David, red crayon, Alicia, a puppet penguin, you know, whatever. That now, it loses all context. Okay, a red crayon. Good, well done. I chose a red crayon, and there's no link. And one of the most important things is if we can convey a story. I think if you think about comedy, if you think about film, theatre, music, all of these mediums or genres are allowed to convey happiness, anger, and sadness. Sorry, that's my Ring doorbell.
That's right.
Right? But they're allowed to, and magic should be no different. Magic should be able to convey, the first and foremost reaction or emotion with magic is wow, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you can put something else into it, then why not? Why wouldn't you? Why would you go, well, it's a magic trick, but if you want to keep it as a magic trick, then fine, come out, float a silver ball, put a hoop over it and go, thank you very much, and walk off. But if you can convey something through, if you can use magic as a metaphor for life, then why not use it? And that's what I did. And for me, what I say, and I said this to so many people, and there were some magicians that were really, I'm not going to name, one of them was really quite nasty. Oh gosh, it's like, oh my God, talk about use your wife's battle with cancer for your own good. And I'm good, what are you talking about? You're absolutely missing the point.
Yeah.
You're missing the point. I don't care if I win or lose. I genuinely don't care. All I want to do, sorry, I'm going to put my phone on silent. That's again. This is obviously outside the front watering the garden. Sorry.
That's all right.
But it's like, why wouldn't you? Like Eric Clapton, I've been really lucky that I performed for Eric Clapton twice. And one of the best compliments I've ever received in my performing career is standing shoulder to shoulder with Eric Clapton, doing just a couple of shuffles that are by no means cardistry, a million miles away from anything those guys do. I'm just shuffling a deck of cards, giving a couple of cuts. And Eric Clapton looking at my hands, and he goes, God, you've got amazing hands. The move I had. And in my head, I'm thinking, Eric, just come here.
Show some stuff on YouTube.
You're one of the best guitar players in the world. Yeah, like,
yeah.
And that was lovely. But my point of raising Eric Clapton is because he had a situation in his life where his child fell from a tall apartment block in New York and died. And he wrote, Would You Know My Name? If I Saw You in Heaven, famous song. And he, as an artist, as someone who has experienced that, I think you can convey that in any way you want to. And we should always talk about hardships, and don't get me wrong, one of the things, and I said this on This Morning with Philip and Holly, and I said, our story is not a sob story. A sob story is, I think sob stories are unrelated to what you're doing. So you walk out on the stage and you kind of go, I'm going to be doing stand-up comedy. And I've had a decent career. And I just thought I'd give it a go and my nan died 2 months ago. And that to me is like, right, okay, what?
Yeah.
Now if you lived with your nan, like Griff was one of the guys that I was up against in my semi-final first time, but Griff was a child that was raised by his nan, and his nan had pushed him to sing. And he said, I'm kind of doing this for my nan. She just said, why don't you get on there and do it? And I think that's totally relevant then. It now becomes relevant. So I think that, we should talk about things. And I think we should, if there is a moment where we can convey something personal and moving and inspiring, but our story is not one of tragedy. Tragedy is that we never had Isabella and Tessa passed away from cancer. That's tragic. Our story is one of never giving up. Don't give up. Just keep on going. Always have hope. And at the end of it, like we had stories coming at us from people where they get in touch. It went viral. I mean, all over the world. I'm getting emails from every part of the world you could possibly imagine. Just wanted to say, we saw your audition. My husband and I were trying for a child for so long. We never managed, I had a stillbirth, never had a child in the end, but just watching yours. And you're going, oh my God, like, we're lucky. We went through one hell of a battle, one real challenging time, but we came out the other side. And my goodness, we're lucky for that, and that's where I think people miss the plot. And And that was the idea, was that, you know, the routine is about real magic. It's about forget what I'm doing. This, oh, you choose this and choose that. It's like, yeah, whatever, you know. It's about real magic, and it's about hopefully trying to pinpoint that. Take a look at your kids. Take a look at, you know, some days you wake up in the morning and for whatever reason, you just, there's something, I don't know, something's right in the air, but you kind of wake up and there's a spring in your step. To me, that's a tiny little snippet of magic, a small little bit that day is going to be a great day, you know.
And it's how we sort of grab that, I suppose, isn't it, and go with it. When you were saying about, you know, I can empathise with the fact you say you're a glasses half empty person, and for me, it's not that you're walking around going everything's rubbish. It's the fact that I get, and tell me if I'm wrong, that you love life so much that it's that fear of something going wrong with it. It's that thing of, you know, what if something messes this up? And I think it's relevant to magicians, because a lot of people, myself included, have passed up on things because of work fear of failure and things like that. And when you look back, when you were talking about, you know, your journey through Tessa's cancer, Isabella, the worry, how do you, as someone who's a glass half, in your own words, half empty person, which I don't think you are, but I know what you mean, deal with that? And what did you have techniques to deal with that, or was it just like you were in the moment and you just had to?
You know what, I think Tessa is amazing. Tessa will try everything, and my goodness, she's amazing. Tessa is a doer and a go-getter. I'm a thinker, a dreamer, and a procrastinator. I mean, God, do I procrastinate? I mean, look, I'll give you a perfect example, right? So X was really successful this time last year. 12 months down the line, I'm only just about to release, this is not a plug, but this is like, I have, you know, like X has got a really good following on Instagram. So I've had so many people. X is more popular than me, which is slightly annoying. A weirdo, white-faced, hoodie-wearing guy is more popular than me. How dare he? But so, you know, like I've been very lucky that I've got a really good following on Instagram, and people constantly, where can I buy X merchandise, this, that, and the other. And Tessa goes, Mark, I'll just get it done. And literally, the prototype is coming a year down the line. So I am a dreamer, a procrastinator. Oh yeah, but who's going to want to buy X stuff? Tessa goes, over 100,000 people that follow you on Instagram, maybe. But so for me, I think before this situation, answer to your question, I think I've always been an upbeat, positive person, and I do have confidence in my ability, but I don't like no's. I don't like rejection.
No,
it brings me down. And if I walk into a room where there's 100 people, 99 of them absolutely love me, but one doesn't, I go, what did I do wrong? Like, what do you mean? Why? You know. And it bugs me. I think, God, I've clearly done something wrong, or I don't know. It would bug me.
So thanks very much, Mark. Obviously, that's not the end of it. Part 2, you're going to want to go and watch. So before we do that, do check out the podcast, by the way, he's doing with Peter Nardi, Wizards, Whiskey and Waffle. I think I've got that the right way around. And that goes more into how Mark got into magic. You got all those stories there. That's why I didn't spend too much time on this. But remember, like, subscribe, check out Card Magic Course, and I'll see you at the beginning of the next one.